Today I'm going to make gluten-free, keto-friendly, low-carb ice cream. So here I've got 4 cups of heavy whipping cream, and you're also going to want 3 to 4 egg yolks. Save the egg whites if you want to make something. And we're going to use 1 full cup of either Splenda, stevia, or erythritol. You're only going to want to add half of the sweetener to the egg yolks, and then just mix everything up really good, kind of like I'm doing right now. If you use the erythritol, I believe you can subtract the carb count from it to make the carb count lower than using Splenda. So just get everything really mixed up nice and good. Okay, so now we're going to take the cream, and we are going to wind up adding it into a pot over the stove. And once we add the cream into the pot, we're going to add the other half of the either Splenda or the erythritol. We're going to have it on, not going to have the pot on really hot. It's going to be on somewhat of a medium, and just mix up the Splenda, stevia, or the erythritol fairly well until it's fairly well combined. You don't want to whip it, because otherwise you're going to start turning it into a whipped cream, and you don't really want that when you're trying to make your ice cream. You can also add like a quarter to half a teaspoon of salt in here as well if you want. And every once in a while you're going to want to mix it up and just kind of keep mixing, and using like a rubber scraper like I'm doing to kind of scrape the bottom of it so it doesn't burn in the bottom. And you're going to do this for a while. You want to stop the heat until, or before it starts to bubble. So what I've got going on here is I'm going to add is, if you saw before how there was bubbles on the side, about that point is where you want to stop, and you're going to take some of the cream out of the pot, because right now it's to the point where it's going to start boiling pretty soon, and you want to stop before that happens. Take some of the cream out of the pot and add it into the egg yolks, because we're going to temper the egg yolks, otherwise you're going to wind up with scrambled eggs. So we need to bring the heat up of the egg yolks a little bit at a time. So I'm going to add a little bit of the hot cream to the egg yolks and mix it up fairly well. Add a little bit more of the hot cream to the egg yolks, mix it up a little well also, and then add some more of the hot cream to the egg yolks and mix it up fairly well. And then just kind of take the cream mixture with the egg yolks and dump it back into the pot. And once you do that and mix it up fairly well, don't whip it up super good, because otherwise it's going to turn into whipped cream like I said before. And mix it up fairly well, and you're going to want to keep it on a medium to medium low heat until it thickens up fairly well, and you'll know when it thickens up, and you do not want this to boil, because otherwise you're going to ruin the cream. So a way to tell when it's thick enough is if you're going to want to use your rubber spatula that I had in there before to kind of scrape the bottom of it, kind of like I have right here. And as you're turning it every once in a great while, pull the rubber spatula out, or the rubber scraper, whatever you want to call it, pull it out of the cream and drag your finger along the ends of where the cream is still on the rubber scraper. If the line stays and does not fill back up with cream, it's thick enough. And I'm going to demonstrate that here in just a little bit. See how that line doesn't go back? That's when you know it's thick enough. So now what we're going to do is turn the heat off, and we're going to dump this into a bowl. And then we're going to cover it with saran wrap or some kind of plastic clear wrap. And we're going to put it on top of the cream, because otherwise it's going to form a skin. We do not want the skin to form because otherwise it's kind of nasty. So we're going to put the saran wrap directly on top of the cream here, and we're going to put it in the fridge, let it cool down for a few hours. If you let it cool for 24 hours, that's great, because you want this as cool as possible when you go to make your ice cream. If you want to add in vanilla, you're going to want to do that when it's cool enough off, just so I found adding the vanilla works better at that point. So there I've added the 2 teaspoons of vanilla, and then I've also added a 1/4 teaspoon of xanthan gum. You don't want to add too much xanthan gum, otherwise it's gonna be kind of slimy and it'll coat your tongue almost like. So you don't want to use too much xanthan gum. I believe, or no, I actually used half a teaspoon, because it's a 1/4 teaspoon per quart, I believe. I'll verify that and update my, put it on my blog just to verify how much xanthan gum you want to put in there. And once we have all that mixed up, now we're going to cover it. And I know I said put the vanilla in after it's cooled. You can do it before, but you just don't want it to be on the burner when you put the vanilla in there. So now we're going to cover this, and I'm going to let it sit for a while, for 5-6 hours, maybe even overnight. The longer you let it sit, the more it can kind of thicken up by itself without having to use too much of the ice cream maker. So now here it's been sitting for quite a few hours, and you can tell it's kind of thick right now, and how I'm shaking it almost looks like a jello. So I'm going to, or not a jello, but a pudding. So I'm going to put it into my ice cream maker, and you can see how it's fairly thick already. And then I'm just going to use a rubber scraper just to kind of scrape off all the rest of the mix into there. And I've got my ice cream maker all set up. And now I'm just adding in the ice and adding in the salt that you need, just to kind of make it all ready. And mine's already done, and so this is kind of how it looks when it's done. It's nice, thick, it's a soft serve ice cream, and there you go. And here's how it is when it's done. I did put mine in the freezer for a little bit just to kind of thicken up just a tad bit more. And see more on my blog at techlibertyblog.com.